What a headshot! What a head!
How's it, guys? This is Dayvy, FPL, and welcome back to the Fantasy Premier League video here on my channel. Now in this video, I'm going to be bringing you guys my updated wildcard draft. If you guys did watch the video on Monday or Tuesday, can't exactly remember when I did release it, but I released the wildcard draft a little bit earlier on. But now that we've got all the injury news, the reaction to the Champions League, I wanted to create an updated wildcard draft for those of you guys on the chip, but also if you're not on the chip, just looking at some free transfers, maybe looking to wildcard in game week 8, you can use this team as an almost template team to gravitate to with those free transfers or that wild card next game week. So that's something you guys are interested in. Sit back, relax, and let's get straight into it. So the first talking point I'm going to be going over is just my general thoughts and the talking points that we've gathered from the Champions League, and then also the injury news coming out of the press conferences held today, and then also our expectations for tomorrow. As I am recording this video on Thursday evening, so if there has been news on Friday, I'll cover it in the comments down below. So just go check the comment section for the most up-to-date news and maybe my reactions or talking points if we do get major press conference news tomorrow. But let's get the expectations for tomorrow out first, because I think that's generally the least important kind of news. So my expectation for tomorrow, or at least the news I hope that we get from the press conferences, are going to be about Man United and then also Liverpool. So Man United, I'm hoping for some positive updates on Luke Shaw, because currently my FPL team really needs it, especially in defense, because I don't even think I have a starting 11 currently. So if Luke Shaw is going to be back, that's going to be great news for us. Then obviously there is some news on maybe a Greenwood, a Ronaldo. Just want to make sure that those players came out of that Villarreal game unscathed, uninjured, and maybe we can get some indication about Greenwood and whether he will be starting against Everton on the weekend. In terms of Liverpool, there's going to be one man to kind of look out for, and that's going to be Trent Alexander-Arnold. Now we have had news of the England selection, and unfortunately Trent did not make that selection, so all signs kind of point him to missing game week 7 through injury, and I think right now that's probably the expectation, but maybe miraculously he manages to recover today or tomorrow, and then maybe Klopp can give us a positive update. But as I said, expectation currently is that Trent will be missing game week 7. I'll also be looking to Klopp for maybe some news about a Jota-Firmino situation. I hope that Jota is going to start against Man City, but even if he does, probably not going to be getting too many points, but I at least just want another starting 11 player that is actually going to feature. Talking about the England lineup announcement today for the upcoming international break, Gareth Southgate actually gave us some indications into the injuries of Reece James and also Luke Shaw. So Luke Shaw and Reece James were both included in the kind of call up to the England squad, which might be a little bit surprising considering both these two players are currently injured. But what Gareth Southgate actually said was he came out and said that Luke Shaw had an illness, not an injury, which is a little bit surprising to me considering that he was subbed early on into that fixture. So I mean, what sickness do you get subbed off a fixture for? I don't really know, but maybe that's just an indication and maybe you know something that we don't. But if Luke Shaw is ill and not injured, he might still be fine for game week 7 where they do take on Everton at Old Trafford. Reece James is the other player that we did speak about. We spoke about this in the Ultimate Guide yesterday, that Tuchel said that it's more of kind of a pain and Reece James dealing with this pain than him being actually injured. So with Reece James call up, I think this might put a little bit of pressure on Azpilicueta at that right wing back spot, but we'll be talking about that a little bit later on when we do look at the actual draft for the wildcard. So there might be other press conferences happening tomorrow, but most of my eyes will be on the United and also the Liverpool press conferences, as I hope that we do get some positive updates on Luke Shaw. As I mentioned, really do need him to start in game week 7. But now going on to today's injury news, and the biggest news today came out of Bielsa. Leeds press conference seems to be every single game week that we are looking to the Leeds press conference to get some updates on Bamford and Rafinha. Unfortunately, we did get a negative update as well on Ayling. He's required to have a little bit of a surgery. I think it was on a knee injury that he currently has, and that unfortunately is going to rule him out for game week 7. So yet another blow to our current FPL lineup. Ayling not playing against a Watford on the weekend, which is quite disappointing for me, but I am an Ismaila Sarr owner, so I probably was hoping for an Ismaila Sarr goal anyway. So not too much wasted there, but I still wanted another starting 11 player that I could actually feature. But with Luke Ayling, don't you know how long he's going to be out for? But if we are wildcarding game week 8, probably won't have him in the squad anyways. But now the big news about Bamford and Rafinha. So Rafinha, the good news is that he is going to be fit for game week 7. I might still make the Jota to Rafinha move. I just really want him. I think it's going to be a great fixture for Leeds against Watford, and I can see Rafinha getting some goals and assists in that one. So I still could do that move now that he has been confirmed fit. But then unfortunately with Bamford, he is confirmed out for game week 7, and unfortunately we don't really know how long he's going to be out for as well. So it seems to be that he might be back after the international break. So if you guys did watch the wildcard draft that I released earlier on in the week, I mentioned Bamford would be a mainstay in my wildcard team, so I still would almost have a placeholder for him, and we'll discuss that when we actually look at the team selection. There were other press conferences today, but I think the Leeds press conference was probably where most eyes were, were, so you guys can just go check on Twitter for updates on those injured players and their announcements in the press conferences today. And now going on to our Champions League reaction, Chelsea playing Juventus last night and United playing Villarreal. So I won't lie to you guys, wasn't really looking good for the United side of things after going down to Villarreal, but managed to come back and win that game 2-1 thanks to a Ronaldo stoppage time winner. So a little bit of confidence there for CR7 as well as United, and hopefully that kind of pays dividend against Everton in game week 7, because currently Ronaldo is still going to be my captain going into that game week 7 deadline. So just generally hope that Ronaldo and United can put on a good performance against Everton on the weekend, because as I said, captaining Ronaldo and maybe Luke Shaw could be back for that game. Greenwood did almost play the entire fixture, was subbed a little bit late on into that, so I don't really know how much to read into that. Seems to have had a good game, but he could always be rotated on the weekend, and that's why, as I mentioned earlier on, hopefully we get some news about Greenwood in Ollie's press conference tomorrow. But now going on to Chelsea, probably the more important lineup and how that fixture went, because most of us are looking at bringing in either Lukaku or a Chelsea defender. In terms of Lukaku, had a relatively quiet evening. Unfortunately, Juventus are quite solid defensively, so Lukaku didn't get too many chances in there, but I'm sure against Southampton those chances will improve, and I can honestly say I think he's the best capsy option for game week 7. But now going on to the defensive side of things, and the big talking point out of that Juventus game was Marcos Alonso picking up a yellow card in the first half and then being subbed at halftime. So honestly guys, I don't really know if that's a good or a bad thing. It could be a good thing. Maybe they were keeping him considering that he was on a yellow card and they consider him too important to lose to suspension. But then on the other side of things, Ben Chilwell got another 45 minutes under his belt, and I don't really know how he played in that fixture. Wasn't really focusing on it too much because I was watching the United game, but I think that with Ben Chilwell getting more minutes, there will 100% be some rotation risk with not only him but also Marcos Alonso in the upcoming game weeks. So my personal opinion on Marcos Alonso is that I think if I was on a free transfer or on a wild card, I probably would hold off on him for the foreseeable future, because I think that boat has kind of sailed, and after not really putting up a good performance in the first half, maybe Tuchel will look for a formational change, and maybe Marcos Alonso will find himself on the bench. In terms of the rest of the starting 11, was a pretty standard Chelsea lineup. I think it was Christensen, Rudiger and Thiago Silva at centre back, and then we had Marcos Alonso starting the fixture, Ben Chilwell ending the fixture at left wing back, and then Azpilicueta playing as right wing back. So that's enough about the updates. Let's get on to the actual team selection and look at my draft and the players I have selected. So now going on to the actual wildcard draft, or at least the updated wildcard draft, differing from the draft we created about Monday or Tuesday evening. As I mentioned, can't remember when I did release it. But after taking all the news and the injury news, Champions League news into account, I've created a new formation for my Game Week 7 wildcard. That's going to be a 4-3-3. But you guys will notice on the bench, and that's where we are going to be starting, we have some more budget in the bench. And the simple reason for that is that if you guys do take a look at our starting 11 defense, there might be some rotation, some Pep roulette, some Tuchel roulette. So I wanted to get some coverage on the bench at least if these players are rotated. So starting off with the goalkeeper, Ben Foster, hasn't gone anywhere since the start of the season at 4.0 million, might play against Leeds on the weekend, but we don't really know what the update is on that one. So maybe you wait for the press conference tomorrow and see what the Watford manager says about Foster and if he's actually going to start game week 7. We do then have two options on the bench from Arsenal. We have a Ben White, then we also have Smith Rowe. So a defensive and a midfield option that come in quite cheap. A Ben White currently 4.4 if I do recall. Now with Smith Rowe, great kind of option to look for. I always love watching him, such a kind of creative option in that midfield department, and is always in and around that box. So at 5.3 million, I think that's quite good value for money. And if you can keep the form up that he was on last season and kind of has trickled in over these opening couple game weeks of this Premier League season, I think you provide great value at that price point. Then the final cheap bench, kind of budget enabler from the midfield department, is going to be Brownhill from Burnley. Now you guys could actually want to play Brownhill this weekend considering they are facing Norwich, but I would probably hold off on that. I would maybe just bench him, keep him third place, because the starting 11 does have some really nice fixtures. So going on to the starting 11 and starting off with Sanchez in goal. Also like Ben Foster, my goalkeeper rotation hasn't changed since the start of the season, and that's just because my talking points around them and my kind of faith in them hasn't gone anywhere. Sanchez right now, Brighton looking great from a defensive and kind of an attacking point of view. So I think that kind of contributes to both sides of the ball, and I think that Sanchez is still going to be a nice option over these next couple game weeks. I have also seen a couple of people on Wildcard go for Ramsdale from Arsenal. Kind of a good option to go for there as well, but I just don't know about the rotation scenario. I did read an article article a couple of weeks ago. Apparently Leno might actually feature in some upcoming games, so that's why I've gone for Sanchez, kind of a nice set and forget 4.5, and you can just put him in and forget about him. But now going on to our defense of our starting 11, and probably my most excitement has fallen within this department of the defense, because you can see we got two double ups, a double up on the Chelsea defense and a double up on the Man City defense. A lot of people were asking me why I was going for more Chelsea defenders and not a Man City defender. Well, here's your answer. I've gone for some City defenders because I agree with you guys. They are great options over the upcoming game weeks. Now, the game week 7 fixture doesn't look that great against Liverpool, but I think this game could be one of those boring 0-0s, and I actually predicted a 0-0 on Super Brew because I just think these top 6 clashes usually don't live up to the hype, and especially Liverpool Man City in the past has sometimes been quite boring. So I'm actually hoping for a 0-0 here because I do own 2 Man City defenders. If I did wildcard, I haven't wildcarded yet, but I might have to kind of use this draft in the deadline stream come game week 7, because if push comes to shove with that injury news, we might actually not be left with a starting 11. But going back to the draft, I've got Cancelo and Diaz as my 2 preferred Man City options, just because with Diaz you're getting that kind of reliability, and you also have a little bit of an attacking threat, but then you got Cancelo who has a massive attacking threat, maybe not as nailed, but he has started every single Premier League game this season. So I mean, under Pep, that's got to tell you something, that he does rely on Cancelo, and he has been in quite good form. So I think the Portuguese international, the Portuguese double up actually of Diaz Cancelo is where it's at for Man City, and I really am favouring this with those lovely fixtures coming up for the blue side of Manchester. Now going on to our next double up, we've gone for the Chelsea side, of the blue side of London, with Rudiger and then also Azpilicueta. So I know I'm kind of contradicting myself here because I've mentioned in the introduction about Reece James. He might not be as injured as early anticipated. So I mean, Azpilicueta could be kind of a rotation risk, but with Azpi, he can always drop into that kind of right-sided centre-back instead of a Christensen, and that's why I think he might be still reliable and not be that much of a rotation risk. But you guys can let me know in the comments down below if you are a Chelsea fan, give me some indication of what you think about Azpilicueta. But going on to Rudiger, I do think he's the most nailed Chelsea option to go for from a defensive department, and that's why I have gone for the German international, as I think nailed offers a little bit of attacking threat off those set pieces and comes in quite a lot cheaper than the other Chelsea defenders. Now, why I have gone for a 4 at the back is that when I did look at the points, I think that Man City and Chelsea offer great value for money, even though they do come in at the more expensive kind of price point of the defense. I think compared to the midfielders and the forwards, great options to go for because they have lovely fixtures coming up. Now going on to our midfield department, and I've gone for a 3 in midfield, but Smith Rowe can always kind of deputize and come in as our 4th midfielder, and the 3 I've gone for are going to be Rafinha, Ismail Assar, and then Mo Salah. So Mo Salah, nothing much to talk about there, just a great option to go for. I actually read over on Twitter that he's averaging about a goal a game, which is simply sensational, and I think he's one of the most essential FPL options to have in your starting 11. So that's why Mo Salah not going anywhere. In terms of Ismail Assar, he's going to be my 1 week punt on a wild card, and if you guys did watch the Wildcard Draft previously this week, I did mention that this was my planned transfer to do. I've left enough in the bank to do Ismail Assar to Grealish in game week 8, and the reason for that is I want to give Grealish another week to just assess the situation there. Didn't have the best game against PSG, so I just want to see if he still is nailed in that Man City lineup, as if he does start against Liverpool, pretty much a nailed option in that starting 11. But Ismail Assar, nice 1 week punt against Leeds. Now, they don't have as many defensive injuries as they did last week because of players coming back from suspension and injury, confirmed today by Bielsa. But I still have faith in Ismail Assar to do quite well in this one, and I'm almost hoping for a goal fest because I do own Rafinha and also Sarr, obviously. Going on to Rafinha, confirmed fit today. I think a great option to go for at that price point, and with those lovely Leeds fixtures coming up, I would definitely have some coverage from a Leeds attacking point of view. Now going on to our front 3, and I have opted for a 3 in the front department, and the reason for that is I wanted almost a little bit of a placeholder for Bamford. Now you guys could argue if I went for Lukaku and Antonio almost provides that placeholder, but I just think from an FPL point of view, when Antonio plays, he gets FPL points, and that's why I still wanted some coverage from that West Ham attacking side of things. So then going on to Raul Jimenez, he is almost the placeholder for Bamford in this case. If I don't want to go for a Grealish in game week 8, I can always just go for Bamford instead if he manages to come back from that injury. And with Raul Jimenez, Wolves have a lovely fixture against Newcastle, which I am expecting them to do quite well in, and that's why I still wanted a little bit of coverage from that Wolves side of things, even though they are quite differential. Raul Jimenez nailed to play 90 minutes, is on penalties, took his goal on the weekend quite comfortably against Southampton, so I think the confidence is going to be there after coming back from this kind of long-term injury. So Raul Jimenez, even if I do have to keep him for the upcoming game weeks, not the end of the world, as Wolves are still putting up some respectable attacking stats. The Then the final play to go for, mentioned him in the introduction, Lukaku, my favorite option from an attacking and a captaincy point of view for game week 7. So if you guys do own him, I would definitely be captaining him, as I think he's the best option to go for. Just has great fixtures coming up. If you guys are on a wild card, definitely would be bringing in Lukaku, because from an attacking point of view of Chelsea, I think he's the most nailed option to go for. Might be a little bit annoying that he will be playing over the international break for Belgium, but I think coming back from that, great fixtures to kind of boot, and I am expecting him to score a couple over these upcoming game weeks. So let me know in the comments down below what you guys think of this wildcard draft. Are you a fan of the big at the back, the 4 at the back system, or would you rather go for a 3 at the back? Which defender would you drop then? Would it be Diaz, Cancelo? Probably going to be Aspie, to be honest, because he's the most rotation risk out of my 4 defenders currently. But also let me know your drafts down below. I know you guys always love to post your drafts, and I also love to see them, as it always does surprise me the kind of ideas that you guys have when you are on a wildcard. But now going on to the transfer that I did plan for the upcoming game week 8. I mentioned this in the wildcard draft, but I kind of wanted to put some clarification here, as a couple of people are asking me why I had Ismaila Sarr when his fixtures don't look good from game week 8 onwards. And the transfer I am planning, or at least I have planned with the money in the bank, is going to be Ismaila Sarr to Jack Grealish in game week 8. I think that Man City's fixtures improved dramatically after that Liverpool game in game week 7, and that's why I do want a Man City attacker to kind of cover those good fixtures, and that's where Jack Grealish comes in. 8.0 million currently, nailed I think at least in that kind of Pep starting 11, and that's why I think off that left hand side should provide some good attacking returns over these next couple game weeks. But this is basically wrap the video, guys. Hopefully you did enjoy it. Please don't forget to like if you did, and subscribe if you have not subscribed yet. I'll be seeing you guys in the deadline stream coming up tomorrow, a Saturday, an hour before the deadline, so make sure you guys are there so that you do get the final team. As I mentioned in this video, I might actually have to use this draft if push comes to shove and the injury news isn't favorable to our starting 11, but you guys will see that obviously in the deadline stream. But I'm going to be signing off. It's been Dayvy FPL, and I'm out. Cheers, bye.